everybody. I'm Wendy Nix, Adam Schefter, Louis Riddick, Field Yates in the middle from NFL Live. It's been an interesting offseason, as they almost always are. Favorite move this offseason?
I'm going to go with Denver trading a fourth-round pick to Baltimore for Joe Flacco. I think that you're talking about a quarterback here who's won Super Bowl MVP. Denver was looking for an upgrade at the position. I've spoken to a couple of coaches who believe, in their words, that Joe Flacco is a quote-unquote steal. Now, again, if he can stay healthy, he's going to have the arm strength to have a strong season in Denver. And guess what? If it doesn't work out, they give up a second-round pick for Drew Lock. So they got Flacco for the short term. They've got Lock for the long term. I think Denver strengthened its quarterback position.
You know, Wendy, believe it or not, I cannot dunk, but I imagine that a slam dunk would feel a lot like what it was for John Dorsey to acquire Odell Beckham Jr. from the New York Giants for what amounted to Jabril Peppers, the 17th overall pick in the draft, and another pick in the 2019 NFL draft. I love the move for Cleveland for all of the obvious reasons. This is a player at 25 years old who has the chance to be the most explosive and dynamic wide receiver in all of football. Cleveland is serious about winning this year. I don't think they're just looking for 7 wins to 9 wins. They're thinking big in Cleveland, the AFC North this season.
Huge.
Yeah, my favorite is the free agent acquisition of Tyrann Mathieu in Kansas City. Not only for what he does for them on the field, which is a multi-positional player that can do a little bit of everything, but because of what he's bringing to them off the field in terms of his maturity. And you want to talk about mentoring people. If you look at his track record in Houston, they raved about how he mentored people down there and set a good example. And he's going to do the same thing in Kansas City. He's recently engaged to his girlfriend. This is a guy, you want to talk about success stories, a guy who has flipped his career around. I mean, Tyrann Mathieu was like, people were thinking, we don't know what's going to happen with this young man. Yeah. And now all of a sudden, he's like a beacon of leadership in Kansas City. I mean, that's awesome to me.
There are teams that took him off the board, didn't want to be part of him when he was coming out of LSU, and he's been a great player.
That's right.
And a model citizen since then, basically.
I have to say, I sat down with him the night he was drafted, and he said to me then, I'm going to surprise a lot of people. And you never know, right? It's easy to say, but it's been exciting for me to see him do that. Now, this next question, I mean, you can interpret it any way you want. It can be interesting for all kinds of reasons, both positive and not so positive. But who's been the most interesting team in the offseason?
Field mentioned the Cleveland Browns, and we heard the Odell Beckham trade. But look at all the other moves. You didn't mention the acquisition of Sheldon Richardson or trading for Olivier Vernon. And you look at the strength that they've added to the defensive front in Cleveland. All of a sudden, Cleveland, which has been a laughing stock for a long time, is the most intriguing team in all of football. They can't be on primetime football enough. We all want to watch the Cleveland Browns. When was the last time we heard that said about that franchise?
How about the Green Bay Packers, who were the first team to fill their head coaching vacancy by naming Matt LaFleur the successor to Mike McCarthy, and then a rare, not just a foray into free agency, but who was more aggressive in free agency? Maybe the Raiders, but besides that, the Packers right there. Preston Smith, Za'Darius Smith up front, Adrian Amos in the back end, filling some depth on the offensive line with Billy Turner, and perhaps most importantly, the key to Green Bay's offseason, Aaron Rodgers of Game of Thrones and football fame is now fully healthy again.
Yeah, you mentioned the Oakland Raiders. I think they're the most interesting team by far. They had so many needs, so many holes, so much draft capital, money to spend in free agency. John Gruden, Mike Mayock, first-year GM, coming out of the studio, and what did they do? They went piece by piece, pick by pick, acquisition by acquisition, and they hit every one of their needs. Now it's just a matter of whether or not they can put it all together and win football games. That opening game, you say the Denver Broncos, with Joe Flacco is an interesting team. The Raiders are interesting. It's a Monday night opener. That's going to be a heck of a showdown there in the AFC West. I think the West I think the Chiefs may have a little bit tougher of a time than maybe you think.
Who's doing that Monday night game?
Who's on the call for that?
I have no idea.
I don't know. Who could that be?
There might be a guy. I know.
He might like Patrick Mahomes.
He might love Patrick Mahomes.
Monday Night Football debut.
See you soon, Ferrari.
See you soon. We'll see you soon. Thanks for joining us.